Welcome to the Man of Recaps. This is the Mandalorian full series recap. Meet the Mandalorian, a super cool bounty hunter with Boba Fett looking armor. His name is Din Djarin, but people just call him Mando. And Mando is an epic fighter. Right off the bat, he catches his mark, freezes him in carbonite Han Solo style. He gets his jobs from Carl Weathers, whose Star Wars name is Greef Karga. And today he's got a high-paying new job for him, but it's a little sketchy because the client is ex-Imperial. Yes, this show takes place right after the original trilogy when the Empire has just been defeated. But a galaxy-spanning empire doesn't disappear overnight. Pockets of ex-Imperial forces are holding on to what power they can. But Mando doesn't care who the client is. He's a true professional who's going to do the job, no questions asked. Except the mark turns out to be a baby Yoda who is aggressively cute. A bounty hunter droid was here too, IG-11, who's got super cool spinny arms. It's an epic shootout, but because they're outnumbered, IG-11 keeps trying to self-destruct. Mando's gotta be like, whoa, slow down. He's ready to kill this kid, but Mando's not gonna let that happen, shoots him instead. Like everyone in the world, Mando is instantly smitten, and it's the start of a beautiful friendship between Mando and Baby Yoda. Now, nothing is ever easy on this show. There's always a side quest. So right off the bat, Mando has to fight a woolly rhinoceros, a mudhorn, and it is not going well. But what's this? He's saved by Baby Yoda using the Force! Yes, this kid already has super strong Force powers, but now he's all tuckered out. Now they're finally headed home, but Baby Yoda is an absolute menace. He keeps messing with Mando's ship, unscrewing the little knobby. Now Mando delivers Baby Yoda to this client who is clearly up to no good. But that's none of Mando's business, so he accepts the payment and lets Baby Yoda go. They're on the planet Navarro, where Mando lives down in the sewers with his clan of Mandalorians since their homeworld, the planet Mandalore, was destroyed. Their leader is the Armorer, because their armor is a huge part of Mandalorian culture, especially their helmets. They never take them off. To show your face to another person is the worst thing you can do. It's all part of their warrior code. This is the way.
This is the way.
Now, the pay for this job was not in credits, but in Beskar steel, a super rare and strong metal from the Mandalorian homeworld. So the Armorer forges Mando a set of brand new, super shiny Beskar steel armor. And Mando's going back to work, ready to take his next job. But when he reaches for his stick shift, the little knob is missing, and Mando has a crisis of conscience, decides to save Baby Yoda. He busts in there, taking out all these stormtroopers with a variety of weapons, including a flamethrower, and his new special attack, the mini homing missiles Whistling Birds. He rescues Baby Yoda from what appears to be some evil science experiments. But now, to get Baby Yoda back, the Imperial puts out a huge bounty on Mando, and so all the bounty hunters of Navarro come in to stop him. But reinforcements are coming in. Yes, the Mandalorians flying in on jetpacks. So Mando and Baby Yoda fly off on their adventure. They have some fun side adventures where Mando fights bad guys while Baby Yoda tries to eat things he really shouldn't be eating. They make some friends along the way, like Cara Dune, ex-Republic commando. He does one job with his old crew, who are basically the evil Guardians of the Galaxy, led by funny guy Miggs Mayfield. And on Tatooine, Mando fights an assassin, Fennec Shand, who will come back later. But eventually Mando realizes that Imperial will never stop hunting Baby Yoda, so he's got to go back to Navarro and take the fight to him. The Mandalorians have fled Navarro, so for this job, Mando needs to recruit a team of his new friends, including IG-11, the bounty hunter droid from the beginning who was fixed up and reprogrammed by another of Mando's new friends, the Ugnaught Queel, who says, "I have spoken." At first, Greef Karga plans to betray Mando, but Baby Yoda's just so cute, he decides to help him. They pretend to turn Mando in to get close to this Imperial, but before Mando can kill him, someone else does. It's a different ex-Imperial with way more power. It's Giancarlo Esposito as the real main villain of this series, Moff Gideon. He really wants Baby Yoda for undisclosed nefarious reasons of his own. It's an epic fight scene where Mando fights valiantly, but he's badly injured. They have to take off his helmet to heal him, but Mando stops them. "No one can see my face, even if it means I die. This is the way." Luckily, IG-11's a droid. He doesn't count as a person. And so it's happening. For the first time, we get to see Pedro Pascal's beautiful face. Then, to let the others escape, it's IG-11's time to shine. He finally gets to self-destruct. But they're still in danger. Moff Gideon's flying his TIE fighter. Luckily, Mando had just earned his Mandalorian jetpack, so he flies up there and blows this thing up. But Moff Gideon survives the crash and cuts his way out with a crazy black lightsaber. Yes, it is the Darksaber, a Mandalorian lightsaber that was a big part of the animated series The Clone Wars. But for now, the day is saved as Season 1 comes to an end. In Season 2, Mando's trying to get Baby Yoda to safety with his own people. Problem is, no one seems to know who that is. And in fact, we don't know anything about Yoda's species. Yoda seemed to be the only one. So for now, Mando tries to look for other Mandalorians, which brings him back to Tatooine, because someone here is walking around with Boba Fett's old armor. Yes, remember, in Return of the Jedi, Boba Fett was knocked into the Sarlacc pit. But this is not Boba Fett, it's just a guy who found his armor, and he is a real good guy, Cobb Vanth, the marshal of this town. Mando gets roped into his first side quest to help this guy fight a Crete dragon, a massive sandworm. They strap some bombs to a bantha and get eaten on purpose, so Mando can boom, blow it up from the inside. This is just the coolest show ever. Mando takes another side gig, driving Uber for Frog Lady. She's transporting her eggs, which Baby Yoda keeps trying to eat. No, Baby Yoda, drop it! They end up crashing on Ice Planet, which is full of giant ice spiders. Oh no, kill it with fire! He gets her to her destination, but his Uber rating takes a big hit. Eventually, Mando finally meets some other Mandalorians, but they immediately take their helmets off. This is not the way. But these are real Mandalorians, and Star Wars superfans immediately recognize Bo-Katan, a big character from the Clone Wars. She's Mandalorian royalty from the planet Mandalore before it was destroyed. Din Djarin himself is not actually Mandalorian. He was adopted into his clan when they rescued him as a kid. And Bo-Katan has to break it to him. Most Mandalorians do take their helmets off. It's completely unreasonable to wear it all the time. Your clan is the only one who does that, and they're kind of a crazy cult. But she's got good news at least about Baby Yoda. She doesn't know his species, but she knows that Yoda was a member of the Jedi. Remember, during the Empire, the Jedi were mostly all killed and have since become kind of a myth. But Bo-Katan knows where one is, and she'll tell Mando if he helps her on a side quest. They steal an ex-Imperial ship, and turns out Bo-Katan is searching for none other than Moff Gideon. Yes, the Darksaber belongs to the rightful ruler of Mandalore, so Bo-Katan wants it back. Mando's like, good luck with that. I got my own mission to bring Baby Yoda to a Jedi. So Mando tracks this Jedi down, and turns out she is Ahsoka Tano, another main character from the Clone Wars. Casual fans might be worried they need to watch these animated series to understand what's going on, but you really don't. The Mandalorian stands on its own. But if you're interested, the animated series are pretty great. You should watch them, or at least watch my recap. Ahsoka knew Yoda well, so she immediately recognizes that's a Baby Yoda. She talks to him through the Force, and we don't learn where he came from, but we learn his name. It's Grogu. Yeah, I mean, it's good, I guess. He has a name, but it's gonna take some getting used to. I still think of him as Baby Yoda. Ahsoka can't stick around to help. She goes off to her own series, where she reunites with some other characters from Star Wars Rebels, including the villain Grand Admiral Thrawn. But ever since Tatooine, someone has been following Mando, and now he catches up to him. It is the real Boba Fett. Yes, for almost 40 years, Star Wars fans have been speculating, could Boba Fett have survived the Sarlacc pit? And now we get our answer. Yes, he did. He crawled his way out of there. It's officially canon. He's made friends with Fennec Shand, the assassin Mando fought in Season 1. Just then, Moff Gideon's forces arrive, so Mando gives him his armor, and Boba Fett is back. But now Moff Gideon sends in his super droids, the Dark Troopers, who kidnap Baby Yoda, no! And he blows up Mando's ship, the Razor Crest. Hoo-hoo, Geico's not gonna cover that. So Mando talks to Boba Fett, hey, can I get a ride? Mando recruits all his friends to bust onto Gideon's ship and rescue Baby Yoda, who he's got locked up in the cutest little handcuffs. It's Mando who ends up fighting Gideon 1v1, Darksaber versus Beskar Spear. Oh yeah, epic! In the end, Mando wins, but when he brings Gideon to the bridge, Bo-Katan is not happy. Turns out by ancient sacred custom, the Darksaber can't be handed over, it has to be won in combat. So Mando is maybe kind of the rightful ruler of Mandalore, which might be a problem in Season 3. But for now, the problem are Moff Gideon's Dark Troopers. Our crew right now is stacked. They can take out basically infinite stormtroopers, but these droids are a different story. But now what's this? An X-Wing flies in, and it is a Jedi, taking down all these Dark Troopers single-handedly in an epic hallway fight. And of course, there's only one guy this could be. It is Luke Skywalker. Now, Luke's face is CGI, so he doesn't say too much, but he offers to take Baby Yoda to train him as a Jedi. And this was Mando's whole goal, to get Grogu to safety with his own people. But Mando has come to love this kid so much that when he says goodbye, he removes his helmet to show Grogu his face. So Baby Yoda leaves with Luke Skywalker to learn to be a Jedi, and that's where Season 2 comes to an end. In The Mandalorian Season 3, Baby Yoda is back already. Yes, that's right, we gotta back up for the spin-off show, Book of Boba Fett. Long story short, Boba Fett takes over Jabba the Hutt's old territory as the new boss of Tatooine. You can watch my recap for the full story. The important thing is, for a few episodes, Mando comes in and takes over the show. It's basically The Mandalorian Season 2.5. We check in on Baby Yoda's Jedi training, where it turns out he doesn't need that stroller. He can jump around just fine when he wants. But in the end, Grogu has to make a choice. He can stay here and become a Jedi, or you can go back to Mando and become a Mandalorian. Come on, Nan, are you sure he can't do both? And so Grogu chooses his papa Mando. Being a Jedi sounds kind of boring. He wants to fly around the galaxy, getting into trouble. So in The Mandalorian Season 3, Mando brings Baby Yoda back to his Mandalorian clan, who have settled here on a new planet, where Grogu's inducted into the clan, given his first piece of armor with his own logo, the Mudhorn. Oh, so stupid cute. But there's a huge problem when Mando comes clean about taking off his helmet. There's no exceptions for tender moments. Mando is apostate. The only way he can be redeemed is by bathing in the sacred waters of Mandalore. But since Mandalore was destroyed, that is impossible. But But while it was completely bombed, the planet is still there, so Mando goes to check it out, and turns out it's not radioactive like they thought. Long story short, he brings Bo-Katan with him and finds the sacred waters where, wow, watch out for that last step. Bo-Katan jumps in to save him, and living down here is a giant monster, a mythosaur. It's the legendary creature whose skull is the classic Mandalorian logo, but as its name implies, it's supposed to be a myth. So Din Djarin has done it, he's successfully redeemed. And Bo-Katan hasn't taken her helmet off since she went in the water, so she's redeemed too. Although she ends up getting permission to take off her helmet. Per usual, there's some side quests, like an episode of CSI Star Wars with Jack Black and Lizzo. But the big one is when they head back to the planet of Navarro. The lawless frontier planet where this show started has been gentrified. IG-11 became a statue. They can't resurrect him without his droid memory core, so he's turned IG-11's old body into a walking mech suit for Baby Yoda. Oh no, this little rascal's walking around with a yes or no voice button. He's gonna get into so much more trouble now. Under the leadership of Grief Karga, it's become an important trade route in the sector. But that attracts pirates, and now it's under attack from Seaweed Davy Jones. So all our Mandalorians have to bust in to save the day. They could live happily here and make Navarro their new home base, but if Mandalore is not radioactive, the time has come to take their planet back. Bo-Katan could unite all the Mandalorian clans spread throughout the galaxy, but only with the Darksaber. So for a minute, it looks like she's gonna have to kill Mando and take it. But earlier, Mando was disarmed, and Bo-Katan disarmed the monster that disarmed him. So if you go by Harry Potter wand rules, Bo-Katan is technically the Darksaber's rightful owner. So it's happening. All the Mandalorians unite to reclaim Mandalore. And this should be pretty easy because there's no one here. Except turns out squatting here is none other than Moff Gideon, who's turned Mandalore into his own secret base. After getting his butt kicked by Mandalorians 2 seasons in a row, he's decided to make his own Mandalorian armor. So it's time for an epic fight. The Mandalorians versus an army of jetpack stormtroopers. Oh yeah, flying around. This show is so sweet. Mando finally discovers what Moff Gideon's master plan for Baby Yoda is. It seems he's trying to figure out how to take the Force out of Baby Yoda and put it in his own new clone bodies. And this is presumably the technology that will eventually lead to the creation of Supreme Leader Snoke. In fact, there's a whole episode following the scientist they were forcing to do experiments on Baby Yoda. He doesn't want to work for the Empire, but long story short, they capture him and brainwash him. But now it's time for Bo-Katan and Moff Gideon to have their final duel. Unfortunately, it doesn't go well, and the Darksaber is broken. With the battle turning against them, the Mandalorians decide to take out this whole base by crashing their ship into it. Mando and Bo-Katan are ready to sacrifice themselves to make sure that Moff Gideon is finally killed for good. But our friends are saved by Baby Yoda, using the Force for an epic force field. But now he's all tuckered out. And so the day is saved. The Mandalorians have finally retaken Mandalore. And good news on Navarro, where they found a new droid memory core and IG-11 is brought back. But Mando and Baby Yoda aren't sticking around. As a new Mandalorian apprentice, it's time for Grogu to go off on his own adventure. A couple times throughout the series, we've encountered the New Republic, and Mando befriended Republic Ranger Carson Teva. Since the Empire's fall, the New Republic is busy trying to restore order in the galaxy, but they're stretched pretty thin. So Mando's like, hey, me and the kid are bounty hunters, ready to take down all the worst scum of the galaxy. So Mando and Baby Yoda live happily ever after, ready to have an infinite number of awesome adventures. Find out how their story continues in the movie The Mandalorian and Grogu. If you liked this recap, hit that subscribe button for more of the best recaps of TV and movies.